Welcome, everybody, to the Wellness Founders Podcast, where we explore the business of wellness and the people creating the future of well-being. Today, we have Jake Wright on the podcast. Jake is the founder of Show Up, a global mindfulness and wellness community based in Barcelona, probably my favorite city in the world. Just a tough time zone most of the time for me. And also the co-founder of Elo Studios, a sauna and ice bath concept focused on recovery, joy, human connection. And Jake has a background as an osteopath, a high-performance consultant, and seems to integrate breathwork and movement into almost everything he does, which is cool. That aligns to my world as well. Jake, welcome to the podcast. Excited to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
So, brother, well, last time we spoke, you were in the home stretch of some important renovations at this new studio that you're building. We are preparing for a January launch. How are you feeling about everything? Where are you guys at with all the progress?
I don't know if anyone's done business in Spain, especially building and construction before. So we are, as usual, if anyone has any idea, 3 weeks late. And
I think that's everywhere, though. I feel like construction is late everywhere in the world. When is construction ever on time?
Well, yeah, especially from a founder side of view when when there's money involved and there's a time limit and a runway and you need to get things kicking as soon as possible. Yeah,
it's tough.
We're 3 weeks late and we're well and truly over budget, but we'll get there at the end of January, hopefully.
Okay. So what are the implications of that from the founder side of those few weeks? What does that mean financially for you, and how prepared were you guys for something like that?
We expected it. So I'll be fair. We wanted it and we're trying to be optimistic for it to be a New Year's open or a new year, new you. But realistically, knowing that we were in Spain, we expected it to be a couple of weeks late. The main issue comes down to, installation of different clima and making sure that the environment's perfect for when we open. And we had delays in that department that kicked us back, and trying to we found a great provider for ice baths, but getting everything ready and on time that slowed us down.
Okay. Let's go back a little bit to the time in which you decided that you're going to create this concept. And I think we could talk about Show Up as well. But I think one thing that's really interesting to me is this trend of social wellness clubs happening in the world. It's something that I would love to see here in Medellin. I'd like to do a project like this. What put it over the hump for you is like, this is something I'm going to invest in and do?
I've had it on my mind to build something in the wellness space for a long time. I started with osteopathy, working as an osteo for 8 years, and then jumping into owning my own practice in Barcelona in a joint venture with a strength and conditioning coach and myself. And it was working really well on my side of the business, and his side wasn't. So after a year and a half, he wanted out. I was going to take it over and renovate the place and upgrade it. And had been building Show Up over the last couple of years, and it had grown from 6 people on the beach to 350 and continued. So I was busy, and then got approached by Enric, my now business partner for Elo. He came to me with the idea that he wanted to build an ice bath center, asked me if I knew anything or knew a space in Barcelona that had sauna, ice bath and breathwork incorporated. And I said no. And then since then, we just continued to catch up, have a coffee and draw the ideas together.
And so from that first time of drawing the ideas together, how different does it look in your mind than what you thought?
Yeah, our first idea was going to be much, much smaller. So we originally had a locale or a shop front locked in with the real estate agent at the time. We'd put the money down. We were going for it. We'd already talked to a designer, the one that we're using now, and we were set on this one place. And then the real estate agent pulled it. Gave us an extra 6 months while we found the right venue, raised a bit more capital, and have tripled the size of the project. More stress, much more fun, hopefully, in the long run. So,
well, that's an interesting, the interesting side of business is when you're deciding to do a project like this, it's, you probably don't want to do something too small where the effort is so outsized anyway that if you just bring, like, it's almost the same amount of effort. Some people will argue to do something that's like 2x, so you might as well go 10x. So did that lesson resonate with you? Or
my business partner Enric is the Excel guy. He's the numbers, comes from tech. Found a startup and he raised a lot of money, and it grew, and then he had to shut it down within the space of a couple of months. and he went on a Vipassana retreat in Thailand, come back, did an ice bath. Anyway, he's the numbers guy. I'm the spiritual sort of wellness health dude that's then been brought into the space, and we merged pretty well. So he had numbers and models and everything that was set. And the more that we looked into it, the more that we realized that the more people we can fit in a sauna and the more people that we have through the venue, the higher the chance that we can make some good money out of this, as well as create a really cool experience for people.
And then how did you guys find each other originally?
I'd led a session at Show Up. I think there was I can't remember how many were there, around 300 that day. And he approached me at the end of the session and asked me if I knew anything about ice baths. And it was the middle of the winter, and I just guided 300 people into a cold dip in the ocean, and the conversation kicked off from there.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so tell us about Show Up at that time, like before the transition of creating this studio, ELO. Tell us about the evolution of Show Up and how that came about.
It was a pure chance. I was out one night. I was at a party, a friend's birthday, and I knew another Australian guy who I was friends with at the time. He's also a chiropractor in Barcelona. And I was mentioning to him that I'd been practicing breathwork for years, and he'd mentioned he'd been to a couple of Joe Dispenza workshops and retreats. And we started talking, and he's like, well, I was like, well, I normally go and have a workout down at the beach in the mornings, get up for sunrise and go and have a workout, and I'll do some breath work and have a swim. And he's like, I'd be keen on the breath work and the swim. Let's go and do it. He said, when? I said, Wednesday. Let's do it on Wednesday morning. And he invited 2 people. I invited 2. 2 of the girls that came had 30,000 Instagram followers and posted videos. And the next week there was 12. The week after there was 25. And it became a small community group that was just going for coffee, having a swim, doing some breath work. To eventually I created an Instagram account and called it Show Up, the meaning of just get out of bed, put your feet on the ground, do something hard, push some boundaries, and learn some ways to be able to regulate your nervous system from the cold and through the breath work. And people just kept showing up week on, week out. You met my old co-founder for Show Up, Hendrik, shout out. And
shout out Hendrik, made the intro happen.
That's it. And Tricky helped me build it out. We did it together for the first couple of years before he decided to jump into sales and move to Medellin, where he's now met his lovely partner and is situated over there.
Yeah, and I was so grateful for him doing that introduction, because I think he also saw the alignment between us two, in the sense that I'm a breathwork instructor. I've been doing breathwork for a long time. I've got an ice bath and sauna in my house. I run a co-living here, and I run a couple of different wellness communities, one of them being Sweat and Chill, one of them being a run club, the Sweat and Chill being one that's maybe more similar to something like Show Up, where you get hundreds of people in a place and you do some breath work and you do regulation practices, social connections, stuff like that. And I've been
I actually saw one of your posts a while ago before we got the introduction made of the Sweat and Chill in Medellin, and I took the concept and we made our own event called Show Up and Chill, and we got a yoga instructor, famous yoga instructor, to be able to come and had the ice baths and did the whole thing. It was a great event.
There you go.
Inspiration without even knowing.
Awesome. And there's no original idea anymore. There's always just inspiration from other people. So it's always cool to see like how widespread this is now. And what I think is interesting about what you've done is you've taken like the community orientation, where you came from a background of building community, getting people together. And then I think there's this very different skill set of building real estate, building hospitality. And most of the time, the people in hospitality that are building that don't have community. And then a lot of the time, people that are building community don't have the hospitality. Now you're going to have both, it seems like.
It's a scary, scary feat to look forward to.
So tell me what's so scary. Tell me.
But look, when we're spending a lot of money on this fit out, right? It's a new concept that hasn't reached Europe before. So there's one in Switzerland. It's named Keen. There's one in Copenhagen called Plug-in. They're both killing it. Keen's just opened recently. There's one there's 85 saunas in London. It's a cold climate. There's one that stood out. I was there on the weekend. We went and did some reconnaissance to all of the different sauna places. our community and Othership in the States. I think most people know what Othership is, and they've broken the mold to what a normal bathhouse should look like and how to integrate community into that. And Enric saw that. He saw the community that I've been able to build in Barcelona and what it takes to be able to do so. He has the tech side and the investment skills and the sales skills. So it's a nice little mesh in between. But what is scary is the fact that we're walking into something that hasn't been done before. Or even though it lights us up, and every time that we look at it and feel it at the different studios and with our community, you still need to jump through that loop and see if you come out on top.
So tell me about what feels like it's what feels like it's the most at risk by doing something like this first.
Yeah, I don't think Spain has the education around sauna usage, and ice baths is growing, but I think that it's because it's a hot country, and maybe their approach to health is probably a little bit behind where you see other nations like the US, Australia, and the UK, whereas people are slowly starting to stop drinking and move into more health-orientated activities and community-based. But I don't think that it's been completely done yet here. And I think bringing in a new concept can shock the market. It can either go really well or it may not go as well as what we anticipate or hope.
Yeah. And what if it goes really well, what happens? If it doesn't go well, what happens?
If it goes really well, I'll make sure to come over to Colombia on holiday. I'll be able to get away.
Okay.
No, our plan is to tick the boxes within Barcelona and see and build a model that works, and not only just a model, but also a way of ILO, like the art form that we're creating within the space, of the different types of practices, the way the flow is handling, the different types of way that we explain the scientific benefits and merge it into the spirituality so that it's able to be received by the population, not only in English, but in Spanish and a bit of Catalan as well. And then when it's positive and we're moving well, then looking at expanding and moving into either a different city or a different location.
Like Medellin.
That could be a possibility.
Tell me more about how do you develop the programming for something like this, and like how do you go from not having anything to like what are all the things you've had to think about?
From the get go.
Yeah. Let's hear it. I want to hear all the different things.
All right. First of all, I think we started out with like, all right, what is the concept that we're trying to do? What's the vision? What's the aim? What's the mission or the purpose of what we're trying to create? And it was like number one was allow people to be more centered within themselves and understand that joy requires effort. That's now our slogan. It probably could be a little bit more reworked, but we've kept it because we think it's true. So, and we found that, and then we've looked for a name. The biggest thing was ILO. Refers to, it's a Finnish word for joy. So we pulled it out of there. We were looking to be able to keep it attached to the Nordic traditions of sauna and ice or cold plunging. And then we moved forward from there. Then it was, okay, is this a viable business? Let's do the numbers. How can we get some information from different businesses around the world? Where do we look at with market research? So we've seen that it was a proven model in the USA and London at the time that we were looking. And we knew that
how were you doing that research? And I imagine maybe your partner was doing a lot of that because he's the numbers guy. But what exactly were you looking at, and how were you getting access to those things? Because a lot of that would probably be private company information, right?
I think that a lot of the times, if you reach out to a founder and have a genuine conversation with them and show interest in something that you're doing, and it's not a direct competitive threat to them in their marketplace, I think the majority of the times founders will be happy to be able to share maybe not detailed financial information, but at least a fairly decent picture is for you to be able to get and see whether or not it's something that is viable to chase. Look, there's a lot of data that's out there at the moment with regards to people swapping and moving into wellness trends and wellness hospitality and tourism and travel and so forth. So that also feeds into how you structure your deck when you are going to sell. And then a lot of calls.
Nice. Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt. Keep going.
No. Just where were we? So
market research,
market research, vibe, talking to some people. I think it was important my business partner, Enric, has had a history with investors previously and has good relationships with them still. So that gave us a bit of a leg up to when we were looking to fund the venue or the initiative.
And
And
how long
then
did it take to fund? And was there different rounds that you guys had to do, or were you able to get it all
we
from
did
basically one?
we did it all in one round. As I said before, we were looking at taking a smaller venue. So originally had budgeted a much smaller amount that we would have needed, and then upgraded and then went and kept and then went for more private investors specifically. Yeah,
Nice.
and then from there it was designing the concept as to how we wanted it to flow. We have a good base model as to what Othership has been able to prove to do, but we feel like it's a little bit too spirituality based and can scare that off within more of a logical European population. And then from there, it's building our class structure, finding a good interior designer, an architect, engineers, builders, and starting to put the plans together to apply to council permits and start to get the word out there, which in our case was starting an Instagram account, mainly focusing around founding stories and sharing the growth process for what we've been able to do over the last couple of months as two founders that haven't done this before, one from the health space, one from the tech space, and being able to create something that we think the people will like.
Nice. Tell me about the nuance between spiritual, logical in the programming and how it gets communicated.
It's a tough line to be able to thread. And I think, like you mentioned before, that the majority of things that we're doing we're not creating anything new. The majority of the practices that anyone does within spirituality has been around for thousands of years by the Chinese, the Hindi faith, the Buddhist faiths, and so forth. We're just adapting it and bringing it in. But I think in Western culture, we're still a little bit behind with how we communicate that across the population. So I started within my practice of osteopathy and started integrating. I was doing Wim Hof and Qigong since I was 12, Wim Hof since I was about 18 or 19, and then got further into my yogic practices and then pranayama and so forth as I continued. When I was training as an osteopath, I integrated the oxygen advantage method into my practices around the same time as COVID, when patients were coming in with long COVID and vaccine side effects. And then that took me on another route. So my approach is always relatively coming from a mix between a spiritual and a logical side. But I think with the Western population, it's needed to be able to explain it in a way that is logical within their minds and not go too heavily on the spiritual and start talking about energy straight away. So slowly introducing them to the concept of being able to feel or look internally without scaring them off with waving gongs around and blowing too much Palo Santo in their face.
Too much Palo Santo. I don't think that's possible. Okay. And then, you obviously, when you go through investing rounds like this, there's some investor relations and expectation setting and communication. Has that been something you have to do, or is your partner doing all that, or how are you being involved?
I would say that he handles the majority of the investor relations. I was able to bring some of my network into the project as well. So there's, that we have, we message, we send a monthly email to all of our investors, and we keep them updated with the build and how everything's running and the progress towards when we finally do get to open also.
And so when you look at the split responsibilities and roles in the business, both you guys are coming from different backgrounds. How did you go through the operating agreement process and just deciding like who's gonna do what, and how are we gonna leverage our skills? And then where, if it's only two of you, some of you, one of you, both of you are doing things that maybe you haven't done in other businesses just because it's needed to do. How did you decide those things?
A really good co-founders agreement from the get-go. One that we signed previously allowing the investors to be able to get equity in the company and understanding our roles, what are our positives, our negatives. Look, within any co-founder relationship, there's things that you'll encounter that you'll need to be able to work through and to talk about, and having an open relationship where you can talk about what you like, what you don't like, how you work together well, how you don't work together. And doing workshops around that. And so like any good relationship, you need to be able to keep putting time and energy into it. He and we're managing really well. Yeah, we get along, and hopefully it continues and flourishes, and there's no divorce a couple of years down the line that's a bit sticky.
That's awesome, man.
We're luck. I didn't count as well. We have a couple of other stakeholders that have come in, and they're playing a part in the
Yeah,
founding team also. So one from partnerships and one that's was previously in private equity and is a bit more finance based.
yeah. Partnerships, especially co-founded partnerships, can be so incredible when they work well and can be such a major driver for any business. And like in the wellness industry, you have two people coming from outside the wellness industry to build something in the wellness industry with bringing that knowledge in. I think it can be very advantageous. We in all the businesses that I'm running, I have partners as well, and I always get curious to how other people manage their partnership relationships, because it is like you said, it's something where you just have to be so in tune with yourself, in tune with them, with the agreements up front. But there's always so many variables. There's always so many things that are going to happen over time that you just never expect, and you can't
Pe-
possibly prepare for all of it.
People, my old osteo boss, who I look back as a great mentor, she always said, "Business is easy, people are the hardest thing."
Yeah, I would agree with that. And one of the most rewarding too. I think one of the most rewarding is when you can have a successful partnership and you know that you've put in the time, the effort, the energy to be a good co-founder, to be a good partner, and that they've done that work too. There's not much more rewarding in business when that is the case. There's not much more catastrophic when it fails, though.
That
you
that
know,
is
when
that
it
is
goes
true.
downhill, and that could be the tough part.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
so
I'm hoping that it works.
you mentioned that founding stories on Instagram and just in general creating video, it was like a main strategy for you at the beginning to build in public. And I'm just curious the line of thinking that you had when you're like, this is a great go-to-market strategy for us. And maybe it builds pre-builds the community, maybe it pre-builds the demand. But what was the vision there when you started, and what was your strategy?
Um, we we talked about this a lot, where how we were going to approach it, and there was obviously we could have gone a bit more of the professional route and kept it specifically towards going more scientific based and educating people on what we were putting in there. But as you're building as a center, which is a little bit different to say if you're selling a product or something that's a bit more tangible. Um, we didn't have content of the venue. We didn't want to use AI to create generations or get renders done and then start posting that on the back end. We also went through a very long branding process where we hired a firm and paid them, and the quality of what we got back wasn't at the level that we wanted to use. So we ended up having to go and find somebody else. So that knocked us down the path a couple of months. And the founding stories is something that flowed naturally from us. We shared, we've been able to share what the values are of the company and why we're building this, and to start to let the community know within Barcelona what we're doing and why, and start to get some interest. And we've just released some founding memberships, and we're going quite well with early interest before we start posting the venue.
And what, for you, what have you seen that most people resonate with the most as far as the articulation of the concept, how your content's been received? Like, what are people saying?
Uh, we've used a couple of editors to be able to create some videos along the process over the last couple of months, and we've found that the views and the shares and the insights have actually been lower than what they are if we create the content ourselves and keep it a bit more based around our experiences and what we're trying to build. I think you see on social media at the moment, like there's a guy in New York that's currently built, I can't remember the exact name, I think it's Moonstar or something. And he's sharing, detailed talking of videos of him talking about the build out and the concept behind it, and sharing a little bit more personal approach. And I think for the demographic that we're going for, which it would be from 25 to 50 or 55, people don't want quick, fast, clickbaity traffic anymore. They want real things where they may learn a little bit or be able to follow a journey of people that are attached to the project.
And so what's the ratio of like, do you have an idea of strategically how you're approaching founder story versus educational piece about the science versus something else?
At the moment, it's mainly founder stories. We haven't posted too much educational content. We're over the next 2 weeks, once the sauna goes in and the ice baths start to take shape, we'll start going a bit heavier into the science and also a bit more promotion around what we're creating, venue design, aspects of the ins and outs, class structures, and then different types of explanation as to what we're going to do within the venue.
And the model itself, like what's sounds like the model is mostly membership based. You said you got founding memberships. But how are you structuring that? How are you pricing that? How are you deciding what that pricing is going to be? Because you don't have any relevant, at least regional
We
reference
we've
points.
we've been lucky enough. Well, you're right. We don't know. We're taking an estimated or a guess at the moment as to what we think is the right price for the venue or for the entries. We'll do passes. So there'll be a single pass. There'll be a 5 pass, a 10 pass, and a 20 pass, and then we'll have a membership that'll be 2, 3, and open times a week. 2 times a week, 3 times a week, and open. And the pricing has come down to um, long conversations with my co-founder Enric and one of our other founding team, and sitting there and putting it into the model and see what works, where's our margins, how much money can we make, what is viable for the business, and what's our costs, and then where we eventually sat.
And when you're looking at those models, what's been the most important metric there for you as far as wh- the membership's the most important as far as selling those? The I mean, obviously having the recurring revenue is great, but have you identified like what's your most valuable membership or like what you need to
I
do to break
I,
even?
I think the most benefit of the any type of option for people to buy would be the passes. So if we were to have people come in and instead of buying a membership, which is probably the case for the majority of places around the world, that if they buy a 5 or a 10 pass or a 20 pass, then we make more money than if they were to purchase a membership. And I think the majority of the population are a little bit transient at the moment with Class Pass and the urban sport. And,
Yeah.
they're less likely to be able to purchase something where they have to stick around for a long period of time. So we price accordingly to that.
But so one thing that almost seems contradictory in that is just the idea of building the community side of it, uh, which is like you'd think you'd want people that are coming. Like, do you want to go into this studio and see like the same people all the time and like that's my community? Or do you feel like the vision is maybe a little bit more transient than something like that? And I don't have the context of going to another ship. I wish that there was one closer to me. So I
Yeah.
don't know if it's like you go in there and you're like, oh, there's Craig and Susie, and I see them every day here, kind of thing.
The pricing and which one we make more money off is not really dependent on who I would prefer to be in the venue.
Of
I think
course, of course.
if we can fill the memberships up and we're at max capacity and we've got a really good community that love coming and they're constantly using it and they're feeling the benefits and people enjoy coming and hanging out. Because at the end of the day, we're building a space where people can come, do a couple of contrast therapy, do some contrast therapy or modalities where they feel awesome and have the opportunity to be able to connect with people in their direct community and have a good time. Is that's what we would like. Whether or not we sell as many passes
Sure.
as that, yeah.
Yeah, we'll make that irrelevant. Let's go back to your vision because you're the community guy, right? You're the community guy that's been brought into this. Are you sensing that, hey, 50% of the people in here all the time are going to be from my show up community? And like has that been a lot of people kind of crossing over from what you've
I,
been doing
I
before?
I would assume so. The majority of the people that come to show up are quite mindful and
Hmm.
health orientated. They get up early before sunrise and go do breath work and have a cold swim and like to interact with other similar minded people. So if we get 50% of now in Barcelona we have 26,000 followers. So if we get half of that, I'd be quite happy.
Hmm.
Um, but I know that it's a different demographic and the pricing will be higher than what our sessions are on the beach. And maybe there's people that can't either afford to come consistently, can do occasional drop in, or we get to target a different demographic. Getting up early before sunrise is a tough thing to do every Wednesday morning. So we can start to allow other people who work corporate jobs, who work in the city centre, aren't happy to wake up before sunrise, to come and also have access to different modalities.
Awesome. So you're looking at this next quarter, Q1. What's most important? Obviously, getting it launched, getting it done. But let's assume that happens. Then what are your, three main priorities?
We're going to launch with hopefully an awesome opening party. We've created the venue, so it's a full soundproof cocoon, so that we can have, in Barcelona, we have people that live everywhere. So we need to make sure that the sound doesn't escape. And we'll introduce people in a fun way, so obviously sober, with health products and different types of collaborations or partnerships with different brands, and get as many people in there over the first couple of weeks as we can. And then start to work on building like we said, the community, so the people that consistently keep coming and enjoy the space. And my job in particular is just make sure the classes are great, and that the experience overall is something that people remember and are happy to be able to tell all their friends about.
And how do you measure that? Are you going to be just soliciting a ton of feedback qualitatively from everybody, or how do you get the experience feedback?
There's through different booking systems at the moment, they have ways to be able to get reviews on classes or sessions for whatever they sign up with. So we'll be watching that profusely, and also listening to the numbers as to how we're going and how many people are coming through on an hourly basis.
And you mentioned some brands, some collaborations for that opening party. Do you anticipate that you want to continue to have just aligned partnerships and aligned brands that are involved in ELO? Are you going to bring out your own product lines? Curious how that works.
It's an idea that's in my head at the moment, for sure. I was actually having this conversation today with somebody about, the first thing that comes to mind is electrolytes, and then moving down the ladder from there, or our own merchandise as well. At the moment, time-wise, we need to restrict to making sure that the venue's done in a proper way and that everything's aligned. And then we will look at creating our own product line afterwards and a bit down the track.
And is there a specific thing you wait for to do that, like a trigger that lets you know that you're ready to start looking into product?
I think it will look at the sales. If people are buying when they're coming through, we'll look at different types of products that are selling off the shelf, what people are requesting. We've created the space so that once the sessions are done, that then we're not forcing them to move out onto the street, and we've created a community cove where people can sit and hang around afterwards. So we'll have the opportunity to be able to ask them and get some feedback, and then move from there.
And so maybe you'll start with other vendors and brands that sell their product at retail space for them, and then whatever's selling, you move into whatever that product is.
That would be a smart idea to do. Yeah,
it would be. Say it's still a lot of work though, right?
It's when you're building one business, or at the moment I'm building two, there's a lot of work to be done, and sometimes it's really just about focusing on the things that make the most amount of difference. And we could make an extra top of the line bit of money that's coming through from selling additional products, but I think perfecting the experience and making sure that we're creating something that people want to keep coming to, and then we worry about making some extra sales on top of that.
Yeah, I feel like that's such an underrated thing. That's very hard to do in practice, at least for me. Not focusing, really focusing, because I tend to want to like have my hands in a lot of different things, and then I get excited about ideas, and then I'm like, okay, well, the experience is good enough here now, like let's start doing this, and maybe there's two products at the same time, or there's merch line plus product. It's just like, it's hard to I don't know, do you feel like you've always been able to focus in that way, or is that taking some practice?
No, I'm terrible. I manage too much across too many teams and handle too much responsibility and not very good at giving it away. Enric is very German in orientation and quite structured in the way that he works, so I'm learning a lot off him. Um, so sometimes it really is just about putting the headsets on and just giving yourself one task and making sure you get it done well before you move on to the next one, which is something that I'm learning and growing and trying to figure out as we move along.
Yeah.
I've also just had a baby, so that
That was literally what I was going to bring up next. It's like that's another new project.
I'm lucky I've had these headphones on because we've had a tough night. He's been screaming, and I've managed to be able to get away for 45 minutes to film the podcast.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
definitely appreciate you for that. I imagine it's been hard to try to do this project while you've got a newborn.
It's the people really underestimate what sleep can do if you get a full night's sleep. The other day when we were in London, we were running around going to saunas. We did 23 saunas in 3 days, which were longer sessions in classes. And I went that night and I was able to have my first 8 hours sleep in 5 months. I felt like a superhuman the next day.
Wow. Yeah, sleep is the number one thing, right? I mean, there's nothing more important than that. I've optimized my life around sleep with everything that I do. At least any motivation for anything. I got the Aura ring, go to I get the is it the Whoop or is it
the Whoop?
Yeah, I've figured out the 8-10 things that really make a difference in sleep, and if I'm doing all those things at least to 90%, then I'm pretty good. So
I thought that I was good at managing all of these things until I had a baby, and then it felt like
I don't have a baby.
There was an atomic bomb.
I feel like that's a heavy reset. Like there's no in between with the baby. You're just kind of fucked for a bit.
At that time, I was doing online coaching or consulting, health consulting or coaching, whichever way you want to put it. And my main thing that I was focusing on was sleep for a couple of the clients I was working with, and I just had a baby, so I was giving advice on sleep, and I'm probably on around 3 to 4 hours a night at the time.
Yeah.
So I felt slightly contradictory. But the one thing that you can't fix is when they're crying.
Yeah. I mean, it's only contradictory if you weren't sleeping well before that, but it sounds like you were.
I'll take it.
Well, let's get into the last question here, which is, what's Jake's legacy in the wellness industry, and what's the movement you want to be known for creating?
I started off when I was younger working in some pretty out there different industries. I was studying osteopathy at the time and working in a sports gambling company in Australia, and doing some real estate sales on the sides and testing the grounds as to like, okay, what do I want to be in sales? Do I really want to finish osteopathy and move down this health road? And I had a lot of experiences where I saw a lot of guys like lose a lot of money and experience that world of hardship and just really stealing off people. And when I finished and started working in the health space, I set my aim and my goal of never moving back out of the world where we're constantly helping and moving people towards a better them. And the community fell into that, where I saw how powerful it really can be within this society. And my vision and my aim of where we can get to by continually putting my energy towards creating spaces for people to be able to feel at peace, to be able to share and connect with others, will never end. And if it means opening saunas and ice bath centers in different locations around the world, to building retreats and getaways and house stays and even hotels, or maybe I just go back to owning a small little surfing lodge in Morocco or in Indonesia somewhere. I feel my path is solely in this route, and I'm happy that I found this little groove of being able to make people feel good and do things they love and connect with others.
Super important, man. And I admire it. I appreciate it. The world needs more of it. And maybe part of that legacy is building an ILO in Medellin at some point with me. So let's keep some things on the table. Super excited to see how things turn out over the next couple months, man. You got a busy schedule ahead with the baby and the launch. and I'm wishing you all the best of luck. And I'm excited for these listeners who are listening to this to go and follow you and be part of that journey. Where's best that they go find
So
all this?
to find Illo, it is on Instagram, Illo Studios _. We're still working on getting it off somebody else at the moment who's had it for 12 years. And then on my personal one is Dr. Jake Wright, and you can follow Show Up on showup.barcelona. And we're also in Copenhagen, Dublin, and Madrid is going to kick off soon again, as well as Sitges in Spain.
Sitges, yes.
Yeah.
I like Sitges.
But you have to come over to Barcelona when we open up Illo and come for a session.
I would love to do that. Yeah. It might be a while before I get there, but
okay.
You'll have some things figured out by the time I get there.
Yeah. We'll have it running by then.
All right, Jake. I appreciate you, man. Talk soon.
Thank you, mate. Have a great night.
Ciao.
Bye.